Good afternoon. Thanks for coming to our time management today. My name is Donna McSpadden and I am a personal counselor here at Pulaski Tech. So I know you know about academic advising and student services. Not everyone knows that we have personal counselors. My job is to help students be successful in overcoming anything that's happening in their life that might get in the way of being successful in school. We've come up with this saying, we even had t-shirts made, which is life happens while you're trying to go to school. Have you noticed that? I mean, we wish it would all just stop. Let me alone, let me study. But no, bills have to be paid, things have to be done. So time management, I'm finding, is one of the most crucial pieces to being successful. Because you already had a busy life before you started Pulaski Tech, if I'm right. So how do you make this work? How do we figure out squeezing out time to study and to get everything done? Have you ever caught yourself studying for a test and the test is a week away and you realize you've got a big assignment due tomorrow and you haven't even started it? So you're not doing the right thing at the right time. Or you're going to bake a cake and you get started and you realize you don't have eggs. Oh wait, now I've got to stop and run to the store. So being efficient, being productive, doing the right thing at the right time for the right length of time is important. But often we are going at such a fast pace and have so many things conflicting for our time and our attention that we don't even have time to stop, breathe, figure it out. What's my priority? How am I going to get things done? So if you look on the back side of your front page, one of my favorite grumpy old ladies, Maxine, do you ever read her cartoons? Maxine says, I find it helps to organize chores into categories. Things I won't do now, things I won't do later, and things I'll never do. So that kind of fits us, isn't it? Sometimes we have such a huge to-do list, we get paralyzed. Have you ever had that happen to you? It's like, I got so much to do, I can't even start. I don't know where to start. I'm paralyzed. I can't get moving. I'm stuck. So what I hope to do today is give you some things that you can take away with you and start now to start feeling better about your time, to get it under control so that it's not controlling you, you are controlling it. So I want to take just about a minute. I want you to take that list and we're going to do a download. I want you to take all that stuff that's in your head rattling around like I got to get this done. Put it on your to-do list right now. We're just going to take a minute. So just start writing. And if you don't mind, I'll continue to talk, but I want you to just write down everything that's on your mind that you've got to get done. So that can be things from home, like the drippy faucet that you've been meaning to fix. I got to get the oil changed in the car. I got to call the dentist for that appointment. Things at home, things from work, things from school. All that stuff that's in your mind. I'll give you just a little while to work on that. But even as we're talking today, as you think of things, put it on your to-do list. Now, I'm not going to recommend that having a long to-do list is a good time management technique, because it isn't. What we know about a big list, again, is that you can get overwhelmed. You can only pick out the fun things. Have you ever done that? You've got this big list and you only pick out the things you really want to do. And those hard or complicated or boring chores just keep getting pushed away. But the idea of the list today is just so that you can get things that are in your mind that are occupying space down on a piece of paper. Then the idea will be to take this list, take everything that's on it and transfer it to your calendar. Find a place for it. Make an appointment with yourself to get it done. Don't just have one big to-do list. Or, here's my other pet peeve. Love Post-it notes. Yellow sticky notes have saved us a lot of trouble in our culture today, and we use them for everything. But again, they're not a good time management technique. Have you done that? Written things down on little notes of paper, and then what happens?
I tend to lose them.
You lose them.
Or still forget.
Or you still forget. One of my pet peeves is to go into someone's office and there's like this yellow ruffle around their monitor because they've got all these sticky notes. What brain research tells us is that we get overwhelmed by that. Our mind is constantly looking at those things and assessing, do I need to do that now? What about that? No, later. Well, that's 2 weeks from now. So every time we sit down to our computer, our brain is all over trying to take in all this information and decide what to do with it. So a cluttered computer, a cluttered desk, a cluttered backpack, a notebook with paper coming out of it every direction really causes us stress. It puts our brains on overload. So time management, organization, all those things really start to reduce our stress as well as make us more productive. So you've got things on your to-do list, so let's just hold on to that for a second. And I'm going to challenge you today to try some of the habits that we're talking about for at least a month. And then if things aren't better, come back and talk to me and we'll figure out what else we might do. But until you create a habit like this, you'll not get the stress relief that you need. It's a lot like building a muscle, right? You do one set of bicep curls. Have you got a bigger bicep? Probably not. But it's the repetition. It's the discipline. Same thing with study skills, time management, stress management, eating healthy, all these things that we know are good for us. We can't just do it one time and expect to be better, even though we want to. But that's kind of the reason why we find that New Year's resolutions don't work, right? We have all these great ideas about what we're going to do, but we don't create the discipline or the foundation to help us be successful in that by making the discipline a part of our daily life. So, daily planning steps. So when are you going to plan? When are you going to do this? Starting today. What's the best time of day for you to do your planning? First thing in the morning? Or last thing in the evening? On your lunch break?
I would say last thing in the evening for the next day.
Okay. I would recommend either the last thing in the evening and then when you get up that next morning, glance at it again before you start your day. Or first thing in the day. The reason being, if you do it in the middle of the day, you've already found out, oh my gosh, I had that dentist appointment at 10 o'clock and I didn't even look at my calendar and I missed it. So you've got to know what your day is and what's a priority for that day. So the saying at the top of this sheet is keep the most important thing the most important thing. And what does that mean? Priorities. And if you say this is important, then you have to make time for it in your day. Now, what happens to us if we say, well, my family's the most important thing to me, and we don't create any time for our family? Families start to say, well, you say that, but your behaviors are not showing me that. We might say, school's the most important thing in my life right now, but we're not making it to class on time, and we're not studying, and so is it really? So, making the most important thing, knowing what your priorities are, has to match up with your value system. Because if it doesn't, then you're probably not going to do it. Now, there are situations where a student may say, school is very important to me, but right now my child is sick, so priorities have shifted. And that's great. That's what we have to do. We're human beings. We've got to have some of that flexibility because priorities do change. But that doesn't mean that once your child is well, you don't shift school back to where you want it to be. You get my drift on that? So, looking at number 1 on our list, put all commitments and appointments on one calendar. And then under that, I want you to block out the times that you are committed. So that would be class times, work time, standing committee meetings, things that you know you have to do on a regular basis. And I know you're thinking, okay, the semester's over, half over. I know when I'm supposed to go to class. That's not the point. I'm wanting it first for you right now to begin to build this discipline. And I want you to be able to have a visual, once you've done your calendar, of where your blocks of time are and where you're committed. Now, sometimes people get overwhelmed. So, no wonder I'm feeling so stressed. I don't have a spare moment anywhere. Once I get it down in one place, I can see why I'm feeling the way I feel. You get your to-do list. You write down all of those things, find a place for them, make an appointment with yourself for all of these things that you've had on your mind to do. Get every syllabus from every class. Write down your due dates for all your assignments as if it's an appointment. Put it on your calendar. Okay, now here's probably the thing that instructors tell me more than anything else. They say, please, if you can get students to understand this concept, it will help more than anything. So you've written down your due date, all your tests, all your assignments, everything from every class is on here. So let's say you have a term paper due for a class. You write down the day the paper's due. Then I want you to back up 2 or 3 days from that date, and you write down, have my paper typed 3 days early. You following me? You back up 2 or 3 days prior to typing the paper and say, have my rough draft done. You might even schedule an appointment to send it to a couple of friends for them to proofread it for you, because you know you can't proofread your own work, right? You know what happens. Schedule that in like it's an appointment. Back up several days from getting the rough draft done. Schedule your time to have the outline done. Back up several days prior to that, doing my research in the library. Do you see where I'm going with this? Make appointments. Take those big commitments that you have and break them down into bite-sized chunks and put it on your calendar as if it's a doctor's appointment that you can't miss. Then hold yourself accountable to that commitment you've made to yourself. Do you see how much stress relief this can bring? How great would it be to turn in a paper early? How many of you have been caught trying to do it all the night before? And then what happens? The printer runs out of ink. The internet goes down. You have a flat tire. Your child gets sick. Life happens. So one of the aspects of being a good student can be to get this figured out. Learn how to discipline yourself so that you are not rushing in, trying to do things at the last minute. That you've actually carved out those periods of time to do it ahead of time. Does that sound doable at all? It's not magic, is it? And we often think, why haven't I been doing that? Nobody teaches us these things. You know, sometimes we learn them kind of by, trial and error, and sometimes something like this comes along and you have that aha moment of, okay, I can do this. So you get all those things on your calendar. Then look at, when do I want to block out some family time? Make those appointments with yourself. You're going to try to exercise. When are you going to do the shopping? When's the laundry going to get done? And I have a lot of students who tell me once they start doing this, they sit down with their families, which I highly recommend, and you have this planning time together. And when the rest of the family can see what all's on your plate, maybe there's this time you can start delegating. Could you do the shopping this week because I have a final? Could you pick up the kids from school because I need to stay at the library and study? Planning it out makes it a whole lot easier than everybody being frustrated because things aren't getting done and somebody feels like they're having to do all the work themselves. Okay, so number 3 is keeping the calendar with you at all times, and then taking that 5 to 10 minutes every morning to organize, look over what you've said you need to do. Prioritize your day, putting those things that have to be done, first things first. Looking at the things that you've said you have to do each day and thinking, how much time will this take to get it done? And remember, we said there's only so many hours in a day, right? So if you've got so many things on your list for one day that it's not humanly possible to get it done, what should you do with that thing on that list that you're not going to get done that day?
Make a priority on tomorrow's list.
Move it to somewhere, either tomorrow or the next day, keeping in mind if it has a deadline attached to it or not. Excellent. And then another thing you can do is that, like we said, if you look at your work at the end of each day to see what did I get done, what do I need to move, look at your calendar and plan out your next day. Now, I think we need something to help us do that rather than just, again, writing random notes. So I've included an example of a daily planning sheet. Now, I recommend that you get a calendar that you can see your whole month at a glance when you open it up, rather than a day-by-day or a week-by-week calendar. One of the best techniques I have found is this. They call it the power of 48 minutes. For people who have attention deficit, or for children that you're trying to teach discipline, this is a great technique, which is you set a timer. They're saying 48 minutes. I would start out with, if you don't have attention deficit, I would start out with 15 or 30-minute blocks. If you're working with a child who's 5 years old, I'd use 5 minutes. Set the timer and say, okay, we're going to work on this for 5 minutes. When the timer goes off, we can go get a drink, we can go run around the block, we can do a different activity. So for you as an adult, you have a huge project, set the timer, work on it for whatever amount of time you want to, then get up, take a break, do something different, come back, set the timer again, work on it till the timer goes off. Do you see how that can help you? Because most of us don't want to feel overwhelmed, like, I know this is going to take hours, and we get that negative mindset, and we can't be productive. Also, research is showing us we need those mental breaks. We need the breaks from the computer screens. We physically need to move around instead of staying in one place, in one position. So it's good, whether you have right brain or left brain thinking.